Hi everyone, thank you so much for tuning in again for the Therapeutic Skin Coach YouTube channel. My name is Haley and I am so excited to be here today to talk to you about a couple of my favorite subjects. I find that I have just naturally looked at skin in a much different way than others have the majority of my life, especially into my adulthood as an esthetician. I started skincare, to back up, I started using skincare products when I was about 10 years old, which was when I first started experiencing breakouts. I was plagued with mountains of acne, endless blackheads on my whole skin, including my body, from starting at 10 years old, and that really didn't shift or change too much up until I was into my 20s, which I find to have been actually quite the learning experience so that I can connect and advocate for different modalities and different ingredients and different sort of resources for my clientele. I've always just sort of been able to connect with them because I know what it feels like on a physical and like emotional level as well. I can really understand what having a face full of pimples or a red rosacea flare or an eczema patch all over your body is all about. I can even identify with what having shingles is all about. So I think having that empathetic approach is very, very vital to my practice, and I know that my clients really appreciate it. So one of the things that I have always loved and experienced in my practice is to be able to educate people on how to properly use skincare and what that sort of entails for each individual. And what always shocks me is how there are so many misconceptions and misunderstandings of what to do when a certain condition arises. And I want to talk about a couple of those today. So I'm sure I'm going to do multiple of these types of videos too, because the more I think about it, the more it's probably an endless list of things that I can discuss. So I'm just going to talk about a couple of the main ones that I see and hope that this resonates with any of you that are experiencing it, so that you have another option of how to treat your skin when faced with whatever issue it is. When most of my clients experience an inflammatory condition, that is anything that ranges from having like a breakout to rosacea to an eczema flare, anything that creates like this excess heat in the body and it's just really uncomfortable, painful, and feels just super tender to the touch, and it just is so uncomfortable. To me, I kind of relate that to what a really bad stomach ache would feel like. Like just, you feel like there's fire in there, you feel like it's kind of brewing things and just making it so uncomfortable that you don't want to eat anything, you barely want to get out of bed, you're just hoping to be connected to a restroom, and you really don't want to do anything other than potentially let it self-heal, kind of like give it a couple days for it to just sort of self-regulate, or you want to gravitate towards more like simplified foods so that it doesn't aggravate whatever is irritated. Now, when I'm speaking to my clients, I tend to make that analogy for them and that comparison because it is the exact same process that I want them to have in their mindset when they are experiencing said inflammatory conditions on the skin. When somebody comes to me and they have just an incredibly like red face, whether it's from the eczema, rosacea, or having just accidentally oversensitized themselves or breakout prone or acne prone, anything, I want to immediately cool, calm, and simplify their routine. This includes switching your temperature in the water that you are using to wash your face, or even avoiding water altogether. As most of you probably know, within your cities or your towns, that water quality differs. It differs depending on where you live. It differs depending on like the type of plumbing that you might have. And here in Los Angeles, it's pretty horrendous. And I advocate for water filters and lots of different, cleaning supplies to help kind of filter out any of the potential contaminants and chemicals that could be compromising your skin's barrier. So that's a huge thing. So what you would want to do in terms of temperature is, instead of wanting to use like warm or even hot water, switch to cool. And I know that feels very counterintuitive for a lot of us because we just love the sensation of warm water. It just feels so warm and like a big hug. Avoid that if you can, because that intensity of a temperature on an inflammatory condition could potentially increase the heat in your skin over time. Even if it's just for a short while, just switch over to that cooler, almost lukewarm if you need to, water temperature, just so you don't aggravate the skin, or switch to using no water at all. And that could be with like a very simple oil cleanser, or just misting the skin with like an aloe vera or a rose mist. That in and of itself is just calming and cooling immediately, so it allows the skin to just sort of calm itself down so that it can kind of start to restore itself. Another major thing that I find people do, especially if they're dealing with more of the acne prone issue, where they're getting cysts or they're just having like this chronic breakout, and people want to over-treat. They over-treat so much that they end up oversensitizing themselves, and then what they think is more breakouts is actually a reaction from that overtreatment. Looks like little blackheads everywhere, or even little whiteheads everywhere. A change in texture that just feels very tender, sort of like if you had a peel gone wrong, And the most important thing that I tell people to do is back off, stop. Reduce the amount of products that you are using in your daily routine to 3, if not 2, which is cleanse, mist, and make sure that your mist has no excess alcohol or witch hazel, or even essential oils if you can, just because those could potentially be adding to the sensitivity while you're already sensitized. And then the third ingredient would just be like a protective, calming balm or moisturizer, or in some cases just like a really rich oil if that's suitable for your skin type. I find that stripping it back is so similar to how with a stomach ache, you would strip back the amount of foods that you would take in to allow the stomach to self-heal. The skin has that same ability, and you don't have to do it forever. You just have to do it until the skin starts to get that momentum and heal. What is the most common reason that the skin starts to respond that way is that you've just sort of overworked your natural barrier. You've either compromised it by doing too many exfoliations, too many retinoids. So it's like physical and chemical exfoliation that can draw out like that sensitivity in the skin. And I get it. I used to do the exact same thing. I used to want to wash my face like 6 times a day thinking that it would just like get rid of it faster, but that's not how skin works. And I learned the hard way because I would always just wake up with more redness and more breakouts and just more irritation. So just like if you had a stomach ache, you would avoid excess nutrients and not try all these different types of foods, and you would just strip back to like a really simplified meal. Allow yourself to do that with your skin. Another misconception that I see very, very frequently is that if you are having a breakout and you experience an infection, otherwise known as a whitehead, that it's better out than in, which is the worst way to describe it, but it's just me trying to explain how people tend to, validate their reasoning for wanting to do self-extractions. And picking at the skin is just never okay. It's never gonna be an opportunity for you to just like become your own esthetician. Set an appointment up with a skin therapist that you trust and have them professionally extract your skin. The reason being is that if I were to go in and like try to extract something on myself, especially if it's at a weird angle, I cannot get the same handle as I could anchoring my hands down on somebody. Plus, I have the professional training to do this. I have over 12 years of extracting thousands of faces, and sometimes I can't even get something out. You have to be able to understand the different stages and levels in which the skin is at in order to know whether or not it is appropriate to extract or better off leaving it alone. It always takes much longer for the skin to heal if you've extracted it. And the way that a facial structure works is that you soften the skin, you cleanse the skin, you prep it for that sort of procedure, which can take up to 30 minutes of your facial to even get you ready for that treatment. And then the extractions in and of themselves are done by a professional who is doing a thorough job on you so that there's not anything sort of left behind to potentially cause reinfection or the spread of an infection. If you're doing it in your car, on your mirror, or in your bathroom after a shower, you're using your bare hands most likely, and sure, there are some people who at least use Q-tips or wrap up their fingers, but it's still not safe. So please don't do it. And to any of you who have those self-extracting tools, throw them away. If any of you have lancets in your homes, first off, I don't know how you got them. Secondly, throw them out. Like, you do not need it. The skin will heal itself. If it's white and it looks like it wants to come out and you think you're doing it a favor, there are some cases that, sure, you got it out and it healed up just fine, but that's probably like every 6th person that I experienced that with, where they're like, yeah, I got it out and I wasn't able to see it. The majority of the time, there is an additional infection surrounding the infection you think is just singular, and when you're pushing on it, you're almost like pressing it down into the skin or pressing it around that infection to spread it all around. So that redness that comes with it is due to self-inflicting harm. And I tend to want to educate people and let them know, listen, you don't want to be doing this because you wouldn't necessarily do this to any other organ in your body where you would just like manipulate and self-destruct in that way. Allow it to self-heal, allow it to calm itself and regenerate itself, because it will most likely treat itself accordingly. One of my tips for that instead is to wrap up an ice cube in a soft cloth or even a paper towel, something as thin as a paper towel, and just hold it on that area. Even if it is an infected pore where it's just like a little whitehead, it will still help to calm that inflammation down and sort of accelerate the speed of that healing. So cool the skin, ice the face, but put a barrier down, because sometimes straight ice can be a little damaging if you do have a compromised barrier. And it just feels a little less shocking to the skin to do so. And another thing too is there are a million beautiful spot treatments out there that can really help treat the infection without having to burst any skin its integrity in any way. So don't feel like you can go ahead and do that. Just spot treat, ice it, leave it alone. And another thing you can definitely do is drink a lot of water. Water will help just flush everything through the lymphatic system and just help you eliminate any of those potential dermatoxins that are just kind of floating around and wanting to pull out on the skin. Those would be probably my main suggestions for now. I'm sure I'm going to come up with several more. So I'm going to continue to make these videos, but definitely review back, look back to see if you have done any of these skin sins in the past. And I don't want you to feel bad for them. I've done all of them. I have over-treated, over-picked, didn't allow things to self-heal for so long. And it took for me to literally just say, you know what? Okay, skin, I'm just gonna leave you alone and allow you to just do what you need to do. And that's when my acne actually started to heal up. So I've seen it time and time again. I suggest it all the time, and the success rate is 100%. When you want to use a mask and when you want to use all these different modalities that feel great for the skin, it's almost as if you're doing it as a prevention. I like to do a mask when I'm just feeling a little dull and I need some activity on the skin. There are some really beautiful masks to calm the skin. However, I tend to want to just suggest avoiding a lot of that to begin with and just using calming modalities first, because anytime I make a suggestion to do something once a week, I know somebody is going to do it 5 times a week because they'll see this immediate response and they think, oh, hey, let me just do this a couple more times and it's going to work out great. But I mean, if you compare it to exercise, just because you feel great after one session, that doesn't mean you need to exercise 5 times a day. That could overstress the system, that could overstress your body, your muscles, and then eventually you could cause harm when your intention was to do good. So just know, slow and steady wins the race. Consistency is key, but allow your body and your skin to do what it knows to do, which is self-heal. I hope that this answers a lot of your common questions, and I look forward to providing a few more tips with you soon. Thank you so much for listening into the Therapeutic Skin Coach YouTube channel, and I hope that you subscribe to the channel as well. Have a great day, and I'll talk with you soon. Bye!